Now we have already done the product details page. Now let's say if I would click on this particular add cart button, I would like to have this particular product to be stored in my cart right here. So cart is where we are able to see all of our products that we have chosen to add to cart. So that's what we'll be doing next. So in order to have this particular component called cart right here, yeah, of course, it's a separate component. It's going to be placed right here. And once we click on this particular button, it should pop up. So let's get started. And in our code right here, you're going to make sure to add another new component right here. So in this case, I'm just going to create a new file called cart.tsx. In this cart.tsx right here, I like to create, of course, the boilerplate first, RAFCE, and then just press enter. And let's actually call this particular cart in our, in order to make sure to read this particular component in our page right here. So I like to make sure to have this particular cart to be popped out every single time when we click on this particular button that stays inside this nav bar. So by right, we should place this particular component. We should call the cart component right here within our nav bar right here. So let's actually call it. So in order to call that particular nav bar, we need to be placing that particular cart that we're going to be calling right after this particular, the last outermost div here. So it's going to be like this, cart. So as you can see here, cart is already declared right here. So just click on it. And there you go. You're able to call the cart right here. And of course, let's make sure to close the cart right here. Just need to have the closing tag like this. And that should do. And as you can see right here, we must make sure to wrap all this particular HTML tag within the return should be within only one parent div or parent tag right here. So let's actually make a simple blank tag like this, and just need to be placing all the HTML code that we have written inside this return, just placing it inside, and that should do. So if we go to our main page right here, you're able to find the cart button right here. As you can see right here, you're able to see it right here. This shows that we are actually making sure to call the cart component from the navbar component right here. So in this case, of course, let's add styling to this particular cart where we should be placing it not on our left-hand side, but it's going to be placed on our right-hand side right here. And let's actually go to that particular component called cart, which is right here. And in here, I'm going to be making sure to add some basic HTML tags right here. First of all, it's going to be, I'll be starting with wrapper. So in this case, I'll be calling the outermost div right here. I'll be calling it cart wrapper. Now, I would say that this particular cart wrapper is actually a class name that I've already created in our globals.css file right here. So if you check our globals.css right here, you are able to find all the stylings for this particular cart component as well. So all you do, just need to go to this particular cart starts right here. So you're able to find all the stylings that are required right here. So that's the first div right here. And in our second div right here, I like to call div, another div again. And this second div should be having a class name called cart container. And once you have already done this two right here, we can actually check our browser and you're able to find this particular, this is basically the cart component right here, which we have placed it in our navbar component right here. And there you go. Right now we have already added this background right here. And inside this particular cart content right here, first of all, I like to add a button. And this button should be having an icon that looks like a back button. So in this case, I like to call AI outline left like this. And this will eventually looks like a back button. So basically that's the idea that we wanted to have. We just wanted to have a back button that looks like this. So when we click on this, it should close this particular cart component right here. That's what we'll be doing. So yeah, before that, let me just add other stuffs as well. For example, I can actually add like the title of this particular card. So in this case, I like to add a span tag. It's like this. And inside the span tag, I like to place your card. So your card is just like this, where we're just going to be having simple text right here. And make sure, in this case, I like to have a class name for this as well, like I've already done before. So in this case, class name is going to be called card heading. That looks like this. And if you check our browser, you're able to find, and I would like to have like a class name for this as well, called heading. And that should do. And then, yeah, this is going to be placed it right here. And of course, even the button right here, I like to have, I need to make sure to have the class name, this button's class name as well. In this case, it's going to be called cart dash heading. So right now, as you can see right here, the only change that it will make is that it will just make them this two into one row. And besides that, let's add another text right here, right below your cart. And in this case, let's make sure to call, and yeah, this particular second cart is going to be, it's going to say, it'll be the quantity of the number of products that are placed in our cart. So in this case, it's going to say, instead of heading right here, there's another one. As you can see right here, we happen to have cart number items right here. It's going to be copying this, and I have to place it right here. Okay. So this will eventually looks like this. So it just becomes red and 0. Yeah, I'll be just making sure to make it dynamic by placing the actual number of quantities later. Now, next, what I would like to do is that I must be able to access this particular card right here. So basically, I like to have this particular card to be accessed from anywhere within this particular project. So we must be able to keep track of the state of this particular card, whether is it opened or closed. So we need to have like a state to track that particular data, which is either is it open or closed. And not just that, we must be able to access that particular state from anywhere within this project. So in that case, I would like to make use of useContext, which is a hook, and it also has this particular feature of managing states of a particular component. And not just that, it's able to manage, save, update, and from the state of this particular component from anywhere within this particular project. So that's the reason why I like to make use of context hook. So in our code right here, I like to create a new folder. This particular folder will be under this particular app folder. So in this case, I'll create a new folder called context. And inside this particular folder as well, I can create a new file called card context.tsx. And this particular file is going to be having all the states that we would like to have. And that particular state is going to be we're going to be making use of useState. And the first thing that I like to create is that I like to import create context hook. And there you go. You can just select this particular option right here, which actually imports directly from React. And also, I like to make use of useState hook as well. So first, I like to create a new context hook called card context. So in this case, I have to make sure to initialize it first. Like in this case, I have to say constant card context, which equals to create context. So I'm just basically making use of this particular create context hook, which we have just imported right at the top right here. And this particular hook will be having an initial state of a empty object like this, and that should do. And next, we also need to have of course, and before that, we must also make sure to export this so that we're able to make use of this particular context. And next, I like to call another function called card provider. So let me say constant card provider like this. And this particular function is going to be we'll be receiving an argument. In this case, going to be called children. And this particular children is going to be having an initial data type of any. And of course, I like to make sure to have that arrows to make it a function like this. And this is where we'll be placing this card context right here. And of course, let's start because we're going to be making use of a state, and that state is going to be helping us to open and close that particular card that you see right here to be accessed from anywhere across this page. So let's call a new useState hook just to keep track of the show card and not to show the card. So in this case, I have to say constant square bracket. I would say show card and also set show card. And of course, we're going to be making use of useState hook. And also, we need to make sure to initialize it. So in this case, I have to have it false by default. And since this is a function right here, I have to make sure to have a return call. And inside this return here, I like to make sure to use of that particular card context that we have actually initialized here. So it's going to be a component for card context. And not to forget, we need to make sure to add dot provider like this. And let's have it as a component right here. And of course, not to forget, we must be adding this particular prop called value. And this particular value is where we'll be passing this particular show card and set show card useState function right here. So in this case, I have to call show card here to be placed right here, and also set show card to be placed right here. Okay, then this will be the initial value that we would like to pass into this context hook right here. And not just that, we must making sure to wrap our entire project with this particular create context provider. So we must be having this particular children that we have actually called earlier, which is right here. Just copy this and make sure to have curly braces, and inside the curly braces, just place children like this. And this will eventually wrap our entire app with this particular create context hook. And let's not forget, we must also need to make sure to export this as well, so that we're able to import it in our other components as well. Now, next, I'd like to go to this particular layout right here. And inside this layout is where I'll be going to be making sure to apply that particular wrap I've just did. So just need to go to this particular file called layout.tsx, which is placed in the root folder of app. And inside here, you just need to make sure to import that provider that we have just initialized just now. So just need to make sure to wrap this particular children right here with that particular context hook which we have just created. So just go to here, and of course, let's create a component right here. This case I have to call cart provider. Yeah, just it. And of course, it's a component, by the way. So you need to make sure to wrap the entire children and just place the children right inside here. And yeah, just don't forget, just put a div around here so that we are able to wrap the children as well. Just place it right here. And you'll be able to have that particular state, which is the set show card and show card to be accessed across the entire project. Now we have already wrapped the entire app with the useContext hook. Now let's have a look on our browser. In our browser right here, we have to find an error. So as you can see right here, I'll be solving it using the use client command right here, which need to be placed inside the card context file. So all you have to do is just head back to our card context file and just need to be placing use client in this particular file right here. Just place it like this. And if you check our browser, that particular issue is solved by now. And the next thing is that, of course, when this particular card sidebar right here should only be opened when we click on that particular button in that particular navbar. So that's what we should be doing. And in order to achieve that, we need to head back to our navbar. In our navbar, we must be able to call these two show card and set show card functions to be placed inside our navbar right here. So we need to import those two global states right here. So in order to do that, we must be, first of all, we need to call this particular card context and just need to say import, open curly braces, just type card context right here, and you'll be able to have it imported right like this. And of course, we need to make sure to initialize the show card and set show card states should be placed right here. So in this case, I'll call constant and open a curly braces. And here I'll be calling show card followed by set show card. And this too is basically coming from useContext, which is a hook which can be directly imported at the top right here. And since it's a hook, since we also need to make sure to call the file that has this state and this particular function as well. So just copy this card context file name right here, and we just need to be pasted inside this particular useContext right here. And also, since this is TypeScript, we must be making sure to add data type of the two states, which is this particular show card is a state and set show card is a function, by the way. So we can just easily be able to solve it by placing any. And any will be used to declare both of this particular state and a function respectively. And next thing is that I have to make sure to make use of the show card and set show card when we click on top of the shopping bag icon. So that's what I'll be doing next. So this particular button right here that you see that wraps this particular icon, shopping bag icon. So in this case, I have to add on click here like this. And after that, of course, in this case, it's going to be placing the function that can change the show card from false to true. I'm just going to say a random name like this, handle click. And this is going to be a function, by the way. And I'll be placing this particular function right after the constant right here. It's going to be saying another constant right here called handle click. And this is a function which happens to be an arrow function like this. And this particular arrow function, what does it do? We just makes use of set show card function, which will change the current value of show cart to its opposite value, we just need to put this particular exclamation mark, which will eventually make the value of show cart to become the opposite of its current value. And there you go. So right now we are able to make use of this particular handle click function, which will eventually switch the states of the show cart from true to false and vice versa. And how does it make this particular card to be opened and closed on every single click? So that's what we'll be doing next. And that's quite pretty simple as well. We just need to make sure to have a condition. So only when show card is true, then we should be, instead of using this question mark, we just make sure to use this particular and symbol, which represents that only when show card is true, the other argument should also work. So this will eventually trigger this particular card when show card is true. And in order to make it trigger from false to true, we just need to click on this particular icon button. So let's give it a test. Now that we have checked our browser right here, there's another issue. And this particular issue also has to do with the use client call, which we didn't actually call it here. So we're just going to be making sure to have the same call at the beginning of this particular file. And once you have added that, you must be able to have this particular issue to be solved. And as you can see right here, when we click on this particular icon, this particular sidebar of your cart opens up. So we also need to make sure to add another way to close this. So as you can see right here, I can't actually close this particular sidebar. So I like to have this particular button to be clicked, and you can do the opposite part. You can make it close. So that way, so in order to achieve that, I have to go back to cart.txx, and in here, as you can see right here, we happen to have this button which has this particular outline. And what I'm going to do is that I like to have like an on-click trigger for this particular button as well. So it's going to say on-click, and this should closing the entire sidebar. So in this case, it's going to say handle close like this. And it's going to be making sure to define the function at the top right here as well. It's going to say constant. And it's going to be an arrow function as well. Okay. Right now, we already have a blank function right here. So we're going to be making sure to import that particular show card and set show card state and a function to be called here as well, like exactly like how we did here earlier. So just going to be making sure to copy this, just be pasting it right here at the top. And of course, you need to make sure to import both of this. So I'm just going to be importing like this, update import React, which imports this particular use context. And also cart context should also be able to import it just by having add and import like this. And this will eventually add both of this particular references at the top right here. Right now, so just need to be making sure to be making use of set show card. In this case, this keyword is going to be having it right here. But this time it's going to be almost the same. So I'm just going to say like this. And yeah, I'm just going to be making sure to add the same call like this, in which I'll be adding the exclamation mark, which will eventually change the value of the show card like this, or only when we click on handle close. So let's give it a test right here. So when we click on this show your card, and it just closes by itself. So that's the way how we wanted it to work. So that's how it is. All right. Now next, as you can see right here, the quantities counter for this particular product is static at the moment. So now let's make it dynamic. So let's head back to our card context, which is right here. And right below the show card right here, let's have another use state and a function. So in this case, I have to call quantity. Just going to say QTY. And of course, set QTY as for the function as well. And what I'll be using this is basically to keep track of the number of quantities that we would like to select for every single products that we see right here. And as you can see right here, since we always start with 1, I'd like to initialize this particular state with 1 as well. And next, I would also like to pass this QTY, which is the quantity state, to this particular value. And this will eventually be able to pass it to wherever we want it. So let's go to this particular page, which is the product details page, which can be found right here. So this is going to be pasting right here. And as you can see right here in this code, we have actually made the quantity for this particular, for all the products, we have only placed it as 1 right here. So 1 is actually a static number. So we need to make sure to have that particular quantity that we have just created to be replaced with this 1 right here. So let me just clear some other unnecessary files. And next thing is that I would like to import the quantity that we have just declared into this particular file, which is product details. So let's head back to the topmost part. And as you can see right below this index right here, I have to call another constant. And this constant is basically the quantity constant which we have just created. And I would like to declare its data type. So in this case, I will say any. And of course, I like to call this particular quantity is actually coming from the useContext hook that we are using. useContext. And inside here, we'll be calling cart context inside. So in this case, this is what we're going to be using. And of course, not forget, we also need to include useContext as the hook. So as you can see right here, we just need to update the import React, which will be eventually easily can be updated right here. And now all you have to do, we just need to make sure to take this quantity and just replace it with number 1, which we have just placed it right here. Just put, and make sure to have a curly braces, and of course just place the quantity. And if we check our browser, we'll be able to find number 1 is right here. And basically this is the new value of the quantity. Basically number 1 is the one. And of course, let's proceed with actually changing this particular value of the quantity. When we click plus or minus, we should be able to see the differences in the number of quantity that we would like to select. So let's have something to be called as function. So in this case, I'd like to add 2 functions. One is to add the number of quantity and one is to reduce the number of quantity. So first of all, right below here, I'd like to call, make a simple function. So in this case, let's say constant. And in this case, let's say increase, just say inc and quantity, qty. This function can be used for increasing the value of the counter. And it's going to be an arrow function. And in order to update the value of quantity right here, we'll be using set quantity like this. And of course, we would like to have inside this particular set quantity to be having a function that will eventually update the value of this particular quantity by +1 right here. But as you can see here, we must always need to keep track of the previous values. So in this case, I have to pass the argument as pref, or you can say previous quantity. And this previous quantity will be the previous value, and just need to be replacing the previous quantity as like this. And this will, every time when we trigger increase quantity function, the value of the counter will increase. And also, we're going to be making sure to add another function right below here. And in this case, it's going to be called decrease quantity. And in this case, it almost does the same thing, where it just, the only change is that we're going to be replacing with number -1. But of course, we must also need to consider the fact that whenever the counter is 1, we can't click minus because it will end up being 0. So 0 is not a valid counter. So in this case, we also must be considering when the previous quantity is 0, we should not -1. So that's what I'll be adding. So in this case, I have to wrap this particular inside of this function with a curly braces so that we can have multiple lines. So I have to make the if statement right here. So in this case, if the previous quantity -1 is less than 1, so this is where we wouldn't want it to minus by 1. So instead, we're just going to be making sure to keep it as 1. So I like to return 1, just like this. And only if it does not fill this particular condition, it should return the following line, which is to return previous quantity -1. And that's how it should work. And of course, do not forget, let's pass these 2 functions, which is increase quantity into the value into the provider right here, and also the decrease quantity as well. Just pass it like this. And this will eventually be added to the context provider of all for the global access. And we can go back to product details again. As you can see right here, we happen to have this minus and plus. So with the minus right here, I can have like an on-click trigger. So this will say on-click. And of course, do not forget, we need to make sure to add decrease quantity at the top first before we come to the bottom. So we just need to really be sure to add decrease quantity right after this quantity, like this. And of course, not to forget, we also need to be adding increase quantity. And just need to make sure to add these 2 particular functions, which is decrease quantity for the minus, and for the plus right here, I'd like to add on click again. And the second on click is for the plus we need to be adding. So in this case, I'll be having increase quantity like this. And there you go. Let's have a check our browser. So when I click on the plus button, as you can see right here, the number actually increases. And if I were to minus or decrease the number of counters, it will go down all the way up to number 1. And when I click again, after when it's already reached 1, it has not changed. And that's the logic behind what we have just did. Next, I would like to have this particular card that we have just made to be having the list of products that we choose that we added to cart. So for that, we need to make sure to have, upon clicking on add to cart, we must be adding this particular product with this particular quantity to this particular cart right here. So that's what I'll be doing next. So in our code, in our cart context, we shall be adding a new variable to store all the products that we added to our cart. So in this case, I'll make a new use state. So in this case, constant, and I'll call cart items like this, and of course set cart items, use state hook, and we'll be initializing it with an empty array. Now next, we shall be adding this particular cart items into this particular cart context or providers value. So I'll have to add it last right here. And this can be eventually used to store all the products that we actually added to cart. Now next, also, we can also be adding this particular add to cart function, where upon clicking on this particular button, I'll have to add this particular product here that we have just already made our mind to buy this. So we need to make sure to add this particular product directly into the cart item array. So we need to make sure to have a function that can actually add this particular product into that cart items array. So let's actually create a new function, which is going to be, I'll have to say add products, constant, add product. And this product is actually a function. Okay, so this particular function will be accepting 2 arguments. One is going to be the product itself. So I'll have to call the product we're going to be passing, because as you can see in our product details, we have actually made use of this particular product object right here. So we can just easily pass the product into this particular function. And do not forget to add the data type. So in this case, I have to add any. And also we need to also add quantity. So quantity can be also used to identify how many products that we want to add. So in this case, I have to add quantity as well. And it's going to be a number. So because it's going to be just a number. And of course, since we're actually adding this particular product, so we must make sure to have this particular set cart items that we have just declared to be used as the way to add the particular product into this particular cart items list. So I would like to say here, set cart items, and inside here, I like to spread the array. For example, in this case, I have to spread the array that's already there. For example, cart items is actually the array that is currently is available. So I just say cart items like this. So what I'm doing right here, I'm just spreading the current value of cart items back to cart items. And with that also, I'll have to add a new object or product into the same array of cart items, and also adding another object. For example, let's say it's going to be a curly braces. So in this particular curly braces will represent an object, and that particular object should be having all the values of the product that's coming from what we have chosen right here. And there's some issue right here. It says type any is not assignable to type of never. What it means is that this particular set cart items is at the moment is having a never data type. So we must make sure to change it to any. So all you do just need to go to this use state and add any data type inside this particular use state hook. So this is going to say any. We should be also declaring the initial state, of course, the empty square bracket. So by this, we'll be able to solve the issue. So right now, I just was able to add a product. This particular function, what it does, it just adds a product, which we have just called via the function. And this function will also be having quantity. And this also, what does it do mainly is just adds the product back to its cart items. And what does it do in this particular line is that it just add up to this particular already existing values. So it's going to be another object which actually follows in the same list. So there you go. And now let's actually make this particular function to be used in our product details page. So of course, we need to make sure to call this. And of course, I'd like to have this to be here as well. So now let's head to our product details page. And in here, I would like to add what we have just included, which is the add product function. And this particular add product function will be used to add whatever product that we click. For example, we need to go to that add to cart button. So add to cart button is here. So we must be adding the on click function as well. And it's going to be a function since the add product function receives 2 parameters. So we must be making sure to have this particular arrow bracket. And then we call add product. And of course, we must be having the bracket to have 2 arguments. The first one is going to be the product that we have just chosen. And of course, the quantity. So in this case, I just want to say QTY because quantity is the one that we have already decided with that counter. Now let's actually check the particular list, which is the cart items, whether is it being able to be added. So of course, you must make sure to call cart items right here. And let's just give a console like this. So it's going to be a console log, cart items. And let's give it a quick check. Now in our browser, I like to go to inspect and look for the console log. And in our console right here, I like to click this particular add to cart button. And there you go. You are able to see a sample array like this. And if you click here, it's basically, it has one object, which is this particular GoPro 11. As these are the object attributes of this particular product that we needed to be having in order to have this particular to be added to our cart. Now that we are able to console all the list of products in this array format, we must be able to convert this array into a list of products you can find inside this product cart. When we open this, there should be a list of products that we have actually added to cart. So that's the thing that I would like to do next. And in our code right here, I'll have to go to this particular cart file. And in our cart file right here, I like to add this cart items that we have already exported coming from cart context. And just need to add that particular cart items, just need to be adding it right in front of this particular list of imports like this. And with this cart items right here, we just need to make sure to add it within our cart right below this particular button right here. Just need to make sure to have that list right below this particular button, but it also stays within this particular cart container. And right after this button, we're going to make sure to add a div. And this div is going to be having a class name. And this class name is going to make sure to give styling to this particular part of the code, where it will have all the styling required to have the products to be listed here. So in this case, there's this styling that I've already implemented earlier. It's called product container right here. As you can see, product container will be having this styling. So this styling is meant for make sure to have that list to be laid out properly. So in this case, I'll use product container. And within this product container div, I like to call that particular list of cart items so that I'll be able to list out all the items you are placed inside. So in this case, we need to make sure to have that particular array name called cart items. And we're going to be making sure to map through every single object of this particular array. So in this case, it's going to be called map. And inside here, we're going to be having a function. So an arrow function like this, in which we will be placing the object as the product. And of course, we must make sure just to have like a declare, like an any property. Also, inside here is where we'll be placing that particular list item. So every single item that you can find in this list is basically what you are able to map through this particular product. So I'll have to create a new div. And this div is going to be having a class name called product. And also we must make sure to have like a key for this, because this is the one that's going to be iterated. So I'll have key. And this key is basically coming from product._id. And this will just eventually make this particular div to be unique, although it has multiple items. Okay, now this is the outer layer. Now let's go to the inside layer of the particular product div right here. So I like to place image. So that's the first step I like to do. So I like to have image. Image component we have already used multiple times. So I have to make use of that particular image component, which has already been used in our previous files. So let's have a copy of that. So I'm just going to make sure to copy over on top of this image component right here. And there you go. Once we have pasted this particular image code snippet, you're able to find some errors. Of course, the first thing would be we need to actually to import the image component right here. So just need to make sure to go to the top right here, just import image. And this image is coming from next/image, and that should eventually solve the issue. But there's one more thing to solve, which is the URL for image. URL for image has a separate import call. I just need to add import from Sanity library image, and that should solve that particular issue. Next thing would be is we have our index is not declared right here. And since we won't be needing index because we're just going to be making sure to use only one image. So the first image is what will be used. And that first image will be placed as the first index. So in this case, let's replace the index with 0 like this. And that should eventually solve the issue with the image right here. So we can also give a check in our browser. So let's add a product card. So now I've already clicked on this particular add to cart button. You must be able to have this particular cart items to have this particular image right here. So this is the first step right here, is to have image. And beside image, there'll be other details as well, which we'll be adding now. And right after this image component right here, I'd like to add another div. And this div will be having a class name as well. It's called item description. And this can be found from here, item description. And of course, we also happen to have a class name called flex. So next step is to have another div again. So in this case, I have div. And this div will also be having a class name called flex and also top. And in here is where we will be placing all the required details of this particular product. So in this case, I have product. Just say the name of this particular product. Let's say product.name. Yeah, this should be a h5 tag. So in this case, I have h5 like this, and this place the name inside here. And also there'll be another details of this particular product, which is the price. And instead of h5 right here, I'll actually just change this to 4 like this. So h4. And because as you can see, right, there's this font size difference right here. Just need to follow this particular styling. And let's check our browser. And in our browser, you're able to find these two details will be placed like this. And right below this particular flex top class name right here, we're going to be having another div. And this time we'll be having a class name called flex bottom. And this is where we'll be placing the counter, where we would like to increase or decrease that particular item's quantity. So that way we are able to directly add or minus a product's quantity directly from the cart. And of course, let's have that particular indicator to like this, almost the same way how we did for the product details. And we'll be starting with a class name as well. So in this case, a div. And this div will be having a class name as well. And here I would like to use one of the stylings right here, which says quantity description. So in this case, I would say quantity followed by description. And inside here, like I like to place the minus quantity and plus icon. So first of all, I have to start with that minus icon. So we'll have to make use of span tag. So span will be able to make use to indicate that minus icon. So in this case, we are able to use the same AI outline minus, which is the same one where we have used for the product details page. And of course, this span tag will also be having a class name. So let's put a class name for this as well. It says minus. So minus will be having a class name for itself. And after tag, there'll be another span tag. So in this case, I have that particular quantity. So instead of AI outline minus, I will make use of select product dot quantity. At the moment, we don't actually find anything that has been assigned to quantity because we have not actually set the quantity yet, but we'll be doing it next. Next thing is that we will need to have another icon, and in this case, it's going to be AI outline, but it's going to be plus. So in this case, instead of minus, replace it with plus. And yeah, we must be able to import all those things at the top right here. As you can see, there's an AI outline minus and plus already top right here. And let's give it a check in our browser. And there you go. But as you can see here, the plus button is red. Let me change this particular minus to plus, and that should eventually solve the issue. And as you can see here, the center part is empty, by the way. So because we have not actually declared anything to the quantity of the product, which we'll be doing after this. And I would also like to add another button. Let's say if you would like to have this particular product to be removed at all, no matter how many products out there, we can just directly click a cross button that should clear this particular product, and in which we are able to make use it even inside this flex bottom container. So right after this quantity description, we need to add a new button. And let's have like a icon for this button as well. But this time we'll be using TI, which is also another style of icons. I would like to say TI, delete outline. And this is a icon as well. So this icon can be imported from a different styling besides that particular AI. So right after this AI, which is right here, we're going to be importing TI icon, and which is coming from React icons /TI. And just like this, you're able to import that particular TI icon. And if you were to go to our browser, we'll be able to have this particular icon right here. And this is the one that refers to this to clear everything. So I like to add some styling for this as well, where in this case I have to place some props. This particular button is it's a button, by the way, the type. And besides this particular type right here, I would also like to have a class name for this. So I'd like to have class name that says remove item. And we'll be having on remove function. And this will eventually gives the styling for this particular item card right here. Now, as you can see right here, I happen to find some design issues right here. As you can see right here, I would like to have this image to move it a bit to the left side. So in this case, I have to make sure to reduce this particular width of this particular image. So we can just change to 200, and that will eventually solve some basic issue like this. And of course, there's a huge gap right here. So I like to have this particular, I like to remove the MX auto, which basically it centers the image, but I wouldn't want it to center at the moment. Just like to have it aligned to the left hand side. So I'll have to remove this like this. And if you check our browser, you'll be able to find this particular image just moved a bit to the left hand side. And there you go. So right now, as you can see, the next thing I have to solve is that, as you can see right there, when I have already happened to have a product listed right here. And the next thing is that if I would add another product, let's say I'll just click on this. And what it does is that it just adds up to the same list of products, which I don't want it to do like that. I want it to, let's say if this was the same product, we just need to be adding it into the same product like this. And of course, I need to make sure to add a restriction to, if it was the same product that's being added, it should just increase the quantity of that particular product. So that's what I'll be working on next. And yeah, we can just go to our cart context right here. We happen to have this add product function. So as you can see right here, I've only added set cart items and just add a new product to the same cart, but I didn't actually implement the quantity yet. So this is what I'll be doing now. So first of all, I need to make sure include quantity. So every single product will be having quantity of its own. So I like to add I like to just push this particular quantity attribute, like for example, product dot quantity should be equals to the quantity that we are passing from as a parameter. So like this. So when every single product has its own quantity, we are able to have this particular counter for every single product that you see. So in order to achieve that, we need to add quantity for every single product. So let's go to our cart right here. And in our cart, we happen to have this quantity description right here. And in here, it says product.quantity. So this is where it will be filled up right here. So as you can see right there, if I were to click on add to cart button and I open the cart, you're able to have one right here. Okay, there's an issue right here. This particular counter shouldn't be red. There's another styling for this. Instead of minus right here, you need to make use of num, which is right here. Just make use of num. And that should eventually solve the issue with the color of this particular number right here. And there you go. Right now, if I were to add another product of the same cart, let's see if I were to add it like this. And if I open the cart, as you can see, there's two products of the same product like this. So this is what we're going to solve now. Now, inside our cart context right here, we must make sure to check whether is that particular product has already exists inside the cart items list. So that's exactly what I'll be doing. So in this case, first of all, right on top of this particular function, the first line here, I like to add like a condition to check whether the product has already exists in the cart ID. For in this case, I have to have like a variable. So in this case, I have to say constant check product in cart, and this will eventually, and this variable will is either it's going to be a true or false variable. Let's say if it was able to find a product that is already there in the list, it should return true or else false. So in this case, I must make sure to make a find function. For example, let's say we happen to have the array called cart items, and I have to find through every single objects of this array. So find is actually a function that can iterate through every single object, and we can also pass item as a parameter to represent every single object. So we happen to have item right here. We can add any like this, and we can also add a arrow function like this, and this function is the one that actually looks for whether does the item with the ID of this particular product. So basically item right here is actually the one that represents every single product that you can find in the cart items. So items dot underscore ID is the one that has the ID of the unique ID of the particular product. And of course, you must make sure does this particular item actually matches the product ID. For example, let's say the product ID is coming from here. Let's say if you were to add a new product, we must make sure to check whether there's already another product with the same ID is already exist or not. So in this case, product dot underscore ID again. And by doing this, we're able to find whether does the product that we add, does it already have inside the cart items list. And we should also make a condition. If only if this particular check product in cart is true, we must not add a new product. It just should add up the quantity. So that's what I'll be doing next. So I'm going to be making a if else statement. So I'll have to place check product in cart. So if this is true, then we should not add any products into the list. Instead, we just need to increment the quantity of that particular product that we are being added. And there'll be an else condition as well. Inside else condition, I'll be placing this function right here where it just adds up a new product which is not there in the list right here. And inside the if the true condition right here, I'll have to create a new variable called constant updated cart items. So what does it do is that it will eventually add up the quantity of a particular product that are being added into the cart. So that's what it do. So first of all, what it does, it does almost the same thing like how in the previous line right here, where it iterates through every single object in the list. So for example, I need to say cart items, but this time we'll be using a map function, and this map function will be having its parameter object to represent every single object. So in this case, I will say product, and instead of product right here, because I don't want to get ambiguous with the parameter, the top right here, I like to say cart product like this, and this will eventually should represent the product that is already listed inside the cart. So in this case, I have any, and of course there'll be an arrow function for this, and this arrow function will be having which should be pointing to a curly braces, and inside here is, so this is where we'll be checking for whether does it match the product that's already there. So I have to say cart product dot underscore ID equals to product dot underscore ID, and only if this is true, we should return an object, and that object where we should be spreading all the attributes in this particular object, which is the cart product, and we are just spreading the entire attributes of cart product, and there's nothing much we are doing here. And particularly for the attribute that says quantity, we should be incrementing the value of that particular attribute. So in this case, I like to say cart product. Basically, I like to just like to call the previous quantity value of this particular product. So let's say cart product dot quantity. We should add by the number of this particular quantity at the top right here. So I like to add quantity right here, and that should eventually solve that particular issue. And of course, we must make sure this is just says updated cart items right here, but we didn't actually make any changes to the cart items because we're just using it and we're not changing any data right here. So we must make sure to set cart items as well, like how we did it here. We need to make sure to have this particular set cart items to be updated as well. So in this case, I have to say set cart items, and inside here is where we'll be placing this particular updated cart items, and we'll be just placing it inside here. And this will eventually update the value of cart items eventually, because this is what it does. And let's give it a check in our browser. So let's give it a check in our cart right here. So as you can see, my cart is actually empty again. And if I were to click on add to cart, you are able to find the quantity of this particular product is actually right here. And if I were to click add to cart again, and this should eventually add the number of this particular counter right here. And there you go. This is how it's supposed to work. Now, as you can see right here, this particular 0 at the top right here is actually, it's static. It still shows 0 no matter how many products you add to a cart. So if you see, I've just added a new product, and inside the cart right here, there's 2 products right here. As you can see, this particular product, it says 0. Basically, this refers to the total quantities of all the products you have actually accumulated in your cart. And so do this particular quantity right here as well. So all you have to do is just need to add a new variable, a global variable, where you can actually keep track of the quantities of all the products that you have added into the cart. So let's head back to our code right here, and let's go to our cart context again. And this time I'll have to add a new variable right after this cart items right here. Just add constant. Of course, it's going to be a square bracket in which you would be placing total quantity. And also another function called set total quantity. And it's going to be a use state hook again. And in which I would like to initialize with a value 0. So this is because it's a number, by the way. So that's why I have actually initialized with 0. And also we need to make sure to call this total quantities variable directly into this particular value right here, so that we are able to utilize the total quantity. And not just that, we must make sure to when we add a new product to our cart, that particular cart's quantity must be added into this total quantities variable as well. In this way, we are able to know how many total quantities of product there are in the cart right here. So every single time when we add our product, in this is where we need to update the quantity of the cart right here. Of course, it should be quantity right here. So let's just need to make sure to add it right here. And the reason why I'm adding it here, because quantities is like total quantities. It does not matter whether the product is already there in the cart or not. And we're just going to be adding to our global total number of quantities. And in this case, I have to add set total quantity. And of course, since it's a function in which inside here, we need to be updating the value of our previous value of our total quantity. So that's why I'm using a function again. So in this case, of course, the parameter is going to be the previous total quantity. So this case, just I will say prev for previous, and it's going to be an arrow function. And that arrow function is going to be making sure to update whatever the previous value is, and with the new value that we have just added. And that new value is going to be quantity. And since quantity is just coming directly from the top right here, and we just need to be making sure to add quantity every single time when we added a new product to our cart. And that way we're able to make use of the total quantity to replace in our total item quantity value right here. So in order to access this, it's navbar, by the way. Let's go to navbar again. And in our navbar right here, and just need to make sure to call this total quantity and just replace it with the 0 that we have been calling it all the time. So you can see right here, it just says 0. So I like to replace this 0 with a dynamic value. In this case, I'd like to say total quantity. And let's give it a check. Okay, here's the product right here. And as you can see, at the moment, the cart is actually, at the moment, it's empty because I've just refreshed the page. And all you have to do is just need to add this particular product to a cart. So as you can see right here, the value right here just increased and has been updated. And of course, there's one product right here. And also we must make sure to update it here as well, just to see how many products there are in your cart. So this is basically located in the cart right here. And just, of course, let's do the same thing here as well. In this case, I have to add total quantities. And with this total quantity, replace it with this 0 value right here. And there you go. Right now, we have just added this particular feature. And we can also add other products. Let's see if I go to our main menu right here. I have to go to the next product right here. And this time, I have to add this particular add to cart button again. And here is 2 products right here. 2 has been added. And there you go. There's 2 particular products has been added here. And here it shows 2 because total quantities is 2. And let's see if I were to add the same product. And this time it says 3. But there seems to be an issue with this particular code right here. So as you can see, it says cannot read properties of undefined reading images. So this is most probably due to the fact that when we wanted to add an image to our card, there must be something that is not being added into the card properly. So let's check our code right here. And in our code, we are able to find, this is where we will be adding the product into the card right here. And let's give it a check the function that being used while adding the card right here. This is the function which is the add product function. So as you can see right here, when we wanted to add a product, this is what we wanted to use. And let's give it a go for the entire function right here. And let's see if there's which part would be the one that causing the issue. So as you can see right here, constant check product in card. This will ensure that if another product is actually exists inside the product, it should say true, or it just find that particular object that actually exists inside the card right here. And from there, we are able to find that particular product. And also this is set total quantity right here. So this will ensure to add whatever that we added. It should just update the value of the quantity. And besides that, the next thing would be in this particular if statement right here. This entire thing is the main process itself. So let's go inside here. So when we are able to find a product inside the card, this will eventually go inside this particular condition. So what does this condition do is that this will create a new cart in which it will map through every single cart, and when it's able to find the product that has the matching ID, for example, cart product has to match with the product.id. So product is what we wanted to add newly. So this is actually an if statement. And of course, when this is an if statement, we need to have an else statement as well. So we need to make sure to wrap this entire if, example like this. And by wrapping this around this if statement, we should be able to have an else statement as well. So we put else like this. And what if there's no matching product like this? So you need to make sure to add a else statement here as well. And this particular else statement should return the card product itself. So basically, when we can't find the matching ID, we don't need to do any updating here. We just need to return whatever is there. So by doing this, we are able to have the set card items to be the same as it used to be. So you need to say return card products. So just return card product right here. And I believe this should eventually solve the issue. Let's give it a check right here. Let's refresh the page. So this is one of the products, right? Let's add to cart right here. There's one right here, and there's two. Let's go to another product right here. And let's add this particular GoPro 11 as well. So add another product to cart. And there you go. It works without any issue right here. It's able to add 4 products because we have added 4, and this is 2 right here. And I think we have already fixed this particular bug. Let's add this to AirPods Pro as well. And let's go to here. Yeah, there you go. So right now we have already fixed that particular bug issue. The next thing that we can add is that the functionality to add the price of the product together with this particular counter right here. So when the price of the product is 250, we must be multiplying the number of quantity that has been input right here. And also when we have more than one product in this particular cart, we must also be having total price for all the items in the cart. And this is where we'll be able to see the total price for all the items in your cart. So that's exactly what I like to work on next. So in this particular cart context right here, what you can do is that you can add another use state where in this case, this time it's going to be total price instead of quantity. I'll be just replacing with price. And we can keep the initial value to be 0 as well. And so this is basically the total price. And this should also be updated when we add a particular product into a cart. So this is where we should be adding. So in this case, as you can see right here, in this particular add product function, we can actually make another set total price function right below here, where we're able to update the value of the price of all the items in our cart right here. So right below here, I like to call set total price. And it's a function which it accepts the previous value to be the parameter. And we can give like a more specific name instead of brief. We can just say previous total price like this. And let's make it like an arrow function as well. So what does this set total price do is that it just will update the total price of all the items in your cart. So when we add a new product right here, when we click on a new product, and that product's price should be added to the total price. So that's what exactly we should be doing. So of course, we need to be having the previous value. So in this case, previous total price, and we need to plus the price of the new product that is being added. So in this case, I have to say product. dot price, and we must make sure to have the quantity to be multiplied to this particular product as well, so that we can know the number of product that is being added. So in this case, I have to add multiplication symbol like this, and of course quantity as well. So what does this do is that it will eventually multiply with the quantity every single time when we add a new product. And the next thing is that we need to make sure to call the total price in our cart right here. In this case, I have to copy the total price right here. Of course, we need to make sure to export it in our context.provider value right here. Just need to put the total price right here again. And this will eventually be able to read from the cart right here. So in this particular cart file right here, we need to add total price right here like this, and in which we are able to find the value to be updated every single time. So let me just return this particular value like this. We can actually see the value that's being updated as well. So let's check our browser. Now, let's say if I were to add a new product right here, example, GoPro 11, and I would like to add this particular item to my cart. So I just need to add to cart. And as you can see in our cart right here, there's one product right here, and the total price is 250. And let me just add another one. Let me just add to cart again. And eventually we're able to find 500 right here because there's two items. So yeah, there's 500. And let me just add another totally new product in this time, and in which I'd like to add this DJI Mini 3 Pro. And I would like to add this particular item to my cart. And of course, you can see the price is here is supposed to be 1,000. So let me check the total price. And there you go. Right now, it is indeed showing the correct value, by the way. And basically, it is 250 and 1,000. And there's two of this. So that's saying, yeah, actually, it is indeed the correct total price right here. And the next thing is that we need to make sure to show this particular total price, not here, but we can actually show it in a proper format at the most bottom right here. And together, there should be a button right here where we can click on checkout or proceed for payment. And that button should lead us to our Stripe payment gateway. So that's what we should be adding next. So in our cart right here, we happen to have the total price to be placed right here. And what you can do right below product containers div, which is right here, we can just place another div. And this div is going to be having a class name as well. Let me just add a class name right inside this div. The class name is going to be called cart bottom. And of course, we already have the styling for this particular product. So in this case, you can find it from globals.css right here. You're able to find cart bottoms styling here as well. So as you can see in our globals.css, we happen to have this particular styling right here. So we can actually make this particular cart bottom to be our outermost div to have the button and the total price. And inside this class name, I have to place another div as well. So in this case, I have to call div class name. And this time it's going to be called total. So total is where I like to place the value of the total price, and in which there'll be two text components. So in this case, I like to have h3 tag. And the first tag would be having subtotal, just to let you know this is the total of all the items in your cart. And there'll be another h3 tag, in which you'll have to place this particular total price dynamic variable, where we can show the actual total price of all the items in our cart. So let's give it a check. And there you go. You're able to find subtotal and the total price to be placed right here. And let's add like simple dollar symbol right here, which will just to indicate this is the price of a particular product. And besides the total, the value to be placed right here, we can also have another div right below here. And of course, this is going to be having a class name as well. And in this case, I'd like to place the button, since the button is where we'll be needed to click when we decided to buy any of the products in the cart. So I like to say button dash container. And this is another styling for just to have the button to be placed at the most bottom right here. You're able to find it right here, button container. And next is that inside the button container as well, I like to have the button itself. So in this case, it's going to be a button. And inside this button tag, we'll be saying pay with Stripe. And in which this is the one that shows the call to action button. And let me just add some class names at the same time. Double button should having a type. So in this case, I have to say button. And of course, there should be a class name for this as well. And in which I like to say checkout button like this. And there you go. Right now we are able to we have placed this particular checkout button. Let me just check the browser. And of course, you must be adding a just simple product right here. And we open the particular cart right here. We're able to find the button to be placed at the most bottom right here. And as you can see right here, so when we don't happen to have any products in our cart right here, there'll be, it should be showing 0, but there's no point of this particular button to be placed right here. So we need to make sure to not to show this particular button when there are no items in the cart. So let's make a condition to only to show this particular cart bottom only when the number of items in the cart items array is more than 0. So let's actually make this particular div, which is the one that we just added, to be wrapped within a curly braces, and this should be having cart items dot length should be more than 0, and we should make like a ternary operator when the first condition is true, only then the second component would work. So that's what this particular code does. And let me check the browser, and there you go. We happen to have no buttons to be placed right here. And of course, because the item is 0, it should be showing none of this particular buttons. So let's say if I were to add one product, and yeah, there you go. Right now we happen to have this particular button together with the total pricing. Now we have already happen to have a particular product in our cart right here. So as you can see right here, we are able to have this particular product. But I would also like to have this particular plus and minus to be working as well. So in order to have this particular plus and minus button to be having, now the basic idea is just to, when we wanted to click on add, the quantity of this particular product should increase while minus should decrease. And that's the basic idea. So basically we're going to make use of a function, and that function must be able to update quantity of this particular product in our cart right here. And that's what exactly we'll be doing next. So first of all, I'll have to go to the cart context right here, and I'll have to have another function right here. And this function is where we can actually implement the add and minus the quantity of a particular product. I'll have to create a new function called toggle cart item or by quantity. So this is basically the name of the function that I want to create. And this particular function will be receiving a parameter, and in which, of course, we need to be having the ID of a particular product. So I'm just going to make sure to have this particular ID. And this particular ID is what we will be making use to identify a particular product's quantity that needs to be updated. So I'll have like an arrow function right here. And first thing is, of course, we must make sure to find this particular product using this ID right here. So you just need to make sure to use back what you have just did, which is to find the particular product that matches the ID. So that's what I like to do here. And this can have to say let found product. So found product is basically the product that we are able to find based on the ID. And of course, we can make sure to use cart items to find which particular item that has the matching ID. So in this case, I have to have find. So find is also another function to find one exact object that matches a particular condition. So in this case, the condition is using ID. So of course, inside the find function here, we're going to be making sure to add a parameter called item. And this item is basically going to be making use to loop through every single object so that we are able to find the particular object that matches the ID. So of course, we must make sure to make use of the item dot underscore ID. So underscore ID is basically referring to the item from the cart items right here. And of course, you must make sure that this has to be equals to the ID that we are passing from this particular function right here. So once we are able to find the product, and then we're able to update the value of its quantity. And next, right now we're able to have this particular found product. And then the next thing is that we're able to update the value of this particular found product. So we need to make use of set cart items. So in this set cart items right here, first of all, if you wanted to update something, and that update should occur only for this particular found product, so we must make sure to include the other products that are already there inside the cart. We must say other products like this. So other products is basically the counter value of found product, because found product is only has the product that matches the ID, while other products, basically all the other items in the cart which does not match this particular ID. And of course, other products we need to spread its value. This particular other product should be an array of all the other products that are already existing inside this particular cart items and does not happen to have found product. And of course, we also need to make sure to have another object, and that object is basically the found product itself. So the found product should be the ones that should be spread like this. And of course, its quantity is what we need to be updating. So quantity is equals to the original value of found product dot quantity. And of course, we need to make sure to either, let's say if I had to add one right here. So if you wanted to add this particular one, we need to make sure to have this particular toggle cart item quantity to be heading one. As you can see right here, for this particular function, we are only adding a one to the particular quantity. So what we can do right here, we can actually make like a condition to check whether if this particular cart quantity is meant for adding the quantity or decreasing the quantity. So we can actually receive another parameter, and let's say it's just going to be saying value like this. And this values can be used to either to increase or to minus the quantity of this particular item in the cart. So let's say if the value variable, let's say we are passing a string called plus, so we can run this particular adding quantity, right? And of course, not to forget, we must also need to make sure to have the other products as well. So in this case, I have to have constant other products. Other products is actually an array of all the products that does not match the ID of this particular product that's being added. So basically, we need to make sure to use cart items again. And we need to, of course, we are going to be making use to filter. So we'll be filtering out products. Let's say an item. And we'll be filtering out all the items, for example, using the item dot underscore ID that does not match the ID that we are passing. So this will eventually be the other products that does not have this particular found product, so that we are able to spread all the other values like this in this particular manner. And for this particular found product, we are able to edit its quantity right here. And by this, we are just adding by one. And we can also have like an else condition as well, and which, let's say the value is minus, or we can just say else if. We can pass the value to be minus. Instead of plus, we can just say minus. So when it's minus, we can actually have this particular quantity to minus by one. And we must also make a condition to not to minus when it's already a zero, or we shouldn't keep zero value in the cart. We need to put another condition just within the else if. We must put like an if condition, and if found product dot quantity has to be greater than one. And so that we don't actually minus quantity to become zero or less than zero. So we must make sure to have this particular condition to be checked. And we can pass this particular function to our cart context provider right here. Just pass it like this. And of course, we must be receiving it in our cart again. And you just need to be adding it here for the first time. And once you have added it here, we must be also be adding to our plus minus buttons right here. So we happen to have our minus here, and then we happen to have a plus here. So when they click on this particular plus button, so we can actually have this particular function, which has to be an on-click function. And when it's on-click, we need to be adding the toggle cart item quantity. And of course, we must be also be passing the name called plus right here. And in that way, it will know that this is increasing the quantity of this particular product. So since we are actually passing arguments into toggle cart item quantity, so we need to make sure to have like an arrow function like this, followed by toggle cart item quantity. And of course, we need to be passing the two arguments, which are the ID of the particular product, and of course the value, which means it's either a plus or a minus. So we'll be adding that next. So first of all, we need to be adding the ID, which is in this case we can use by product dot underscore ID, or by plus, by the way. So I just want to be copying plus and I'll replace it right here. So yeah, we can actually give it a check in our browser. So when I add this to cart, and of course we can actually go to our cart right here, and we should be increasing here as well. And there you go. But as you can see here, when I increase the quantity right here, but this particular price hasn't been reflecting as well. So we also need to make sure that our price has to be reflecting to this particular updates right here. So that's what we should be doing next. So of course, not to forget, we should also be able to minus this particular quantity. So just copy this particular function and just paste it inside the minus right here. So we just copy, instead of plus, just take the minus and replace it with plus. And if we check our browser, we must be able to, reduce the quantity of this particular product. And when it's less than 1, of course, it shouldn't do anything right here. Okay, that's what we wanted to achieve. So the next thing is that we must be also need to have this particular total price of this particular cart to reflect on the number of quantity that we have added. So it should be like when there's 4 items, so that means 4 multiplied by 10, it should be 4,000, something like that. So that's like a simple multiplication. So in this case, we can go to our cart context right here. So in this case, we need to be updating our total price. So in this case, we need to call the set total price function. So set total price, and in which we need to be adding the same way how we did it earlier when we added a product. So we just need to be having almost the same like this, by the way, where we need to be increasing the price with the product that we have just added. So of course, we're just going to be pasting it right here as well. So in this case, we're just going to be making sure to have it like this, where total price is here, and we also haven't have previous price. And instead of product right here, of course, we must be making use of found product, by the way, because found product is what we just added. We just wanted to add, so found product dot price times quantity. And I think we won't be needing quantity because it's always increases by 1. So we don't need it to be added quantity here, but we just need to be having previous total price, and we just add it with the found products price, like just by 1. That way we are able to have the total price to be updated based on the previous value and the new price of the particular product that we selected. So let's give it a check. So in our browser, we can actually add this particular product to cart, and since there's 2 items, and there you go, it just reflects the total price by multiplying this particular 2 times 1,000. It's actually 2,000 right here. When I increase, and there you go, it just reflects right like this. And let's give it a check by having other products to be added into our cart. So in this case, I have to add this particular product as well. So if I go here, and there you go. So let's see, times 2 is just 500. So 4,000 plus 500 is 4,500. This is actually correct. Now let's do the same thing for when we minus. So just need to be having this, and just place it right below here. But then instead of plus right here, we can minus this particular price right here. And we don't need to be checking for any issues, for example, because when the value is less than 1, it won't run any of this line of this code. So it won't be an issue when there's negative value or not. Okay, now let's give it a check as well. So when we wanted to add this particular product right here, let me just add 4 products right here. And let's say, 4 times 250,000. And we can reduce the number of items, and it will reflect the price right here. But as you can see right here, when I actually reduce the number of items to 2, but it actually says 4 still. So we need to be updating the total quantity of the entire products, even after when we reduce or increase the quantity of a particular product. So it should reflect to the set total quantity, which is right here. So the next thing is that we must also need to make sure to update set total quantity, and in which we need to make sure to use the previous total quantity, and in this case, going to be an arrow function where I'm just going to be making use of previous total quantity plus 1, and this will eventually update the total quantity by 1. So when we go to our browser, let's say if I would add a few items right here, and since there's 3, which we have just added, and of course this should be 3 as well, and this should also reflect to what we have done right here. So when I reduce the number of items like this should be having 1 as well right here, because we just reduce it to 1, and the total number of items is 1 as well. And let me just go and try to add other products as well, such as this particular, the next product right here. And let's say if I want to add this particular product to cart, and of course I just added 2 items to this particular cart right here. So and there's actually 3 items total, and let me just reduce this particular item. So when I reduce it by 1, this should be, eventually it became 2 as well. And we can actually add from here as well, since there's 4 here, there's 1 here, that's 5 supposed to be. And of course, let's add another one right here. Now, as you can see right here, there's some major issue has been going on. So basically, when we click on this particular increment button, this particular object goes to the last part of this particular array. And the reason why is because when we update something, it always affects the last array. So in that way, it will always place the updated object to be placed as the last index. Same goes to plus and as well as minus right here. So what we can do to solve this is that we need to make sure to solve this particular object separately. And then we need to make sure to preserve the index value of this particular product that is being placed in the cart. So first of all, we must make sure to have the index. So in this case, I'd say constant index. And this particular index is basically, in this case, we're going to be making use of find index function to find the index of this particular product that is being placed in the cart. So in this case, I'd say cart items dot find index. And with this find index function, we can actually look for the particular product. For example, this is a product that we wanted to find. And that particular product should match of this particular ID that we are passing right here. So in this case, I'd say product dot underscore ID must be equals to ID. And by doing this, we're able to find the index of the particular product that we wanted to update. So once we have find the index, we must be able to update that particular product in the cart right here. So next thing is that we must also need to have a separate cart item. So in this case, I'd say updated cart items, something like this. So updated cart items is basically the copied version of cart items itself. So by doing this, we are able to update just a particular product that needs its quantity to be updated. And in that way, we need to make sure to update only the particular item that has the index of this index, by the way. So by doing this, we are able to selectively solve or update this particular product quantity first, and then we can just place it directly to set cart items. So that's the basic idea of this particular step. So in this case, we need to make sure to take this, whatever that we did it here, and we just need to be placing it inside here. So in this case, I like to create a new object for this. And of course, I like to spread the values of updated cart items. And of course, it's going to be only the object that's already being there. So you must make use of index here. So basically, whatever the value that's inside updated cart items is going to be spread here in this object as well. And besides that, this part I'll be needing to update the quantity of this particular product. So I'm just going to be copying this and I'll paste it right here. And what do I do here is that I'm just updating the value of this particular quantity of the particular product. Or you can just take this updated cart items quantity index and we can just replace it with this particular found product right here. And either way, it does make sense. And there you go. Right now, what we have done here, we just happen to have a particular object or a particular product that has been updated with the new increment value. And next thing is that we just need to be updating the set cart items with this particular set updated cart item right here. So all you have to do, just copy the name of this particular set updated cart items. And we just need to be replacing the entire updated cart items. Just need to be placing it inside set cart items. So what does it do here? It just updates all the value of this particular cart items. And at the same time, it will be preserving the index value or the position of this particular item right here. And that way it will be far more efficient and which does not cause the issue where it changes the index positions. And let's do the same thing. And this time it's meant for minus. So let me place it. Let me place the updated cart items index right here. And in this case, instead of +1, we're just going to be -1. And of course, we're just going to be making sure to just copy this and just going to be pasting it right here. And by doing this, we must be able to have them to be updated with their new quantity, but at the same time does not cause any issue to the index. And as you can see here, we won't be needing this other products at the same time. We can just remove it because we have already replaced this particular new algorithm. And let's give it a check in our browser. Let me just add this particular item to cart, and there should be 2 right here. And let's add another product. And in this case, it's going to be a different product, which is DJI. And let me just add 2 products at the same time as well. And as you can see here, there's 2 of this item and there's 2 of these items. And as you can see right here, the product's total price is also reflecting correctly. And let me just increase this particular value. And there you go. That's not able to have this particular product's position to be changed because we have already made that particular index to be preserved. And let me just add it here as well. And there you go. This issue has already been solved. And of course, this particular total price quantity has also been updated as well. And the last but not the least, as you can see right here, there's one more thing left is this particular button right here. And in which when we click on this particular button, this particular product should be removed from this particular cart. So when we just click on this particular button, this entire product should not be in this particular cart. So it should be 0 or should be just cleared from this particular cart right here. And that's the next thing I would like to do is that in our code right here, so this particular button right here, so as you can see, there's a button called remove item button. Remove item is basically the class name that I've gave to show this particular cross button right here. And this button should be the one that we can be used to remove the item from the particular card right here. So let's make like something like this where we are able to all click on this particular button, and when we pass this particular product as our parameter, it should remove this particular product that we pass from the cart right here. So let's go to our cart context right here. And in our cart context is where we're going to be creating a new function. Again, this function is called onRemove. So onRemove is basically it's an arrow function. And of course that receives a parameter called product. And it's just need to pass the product that's coming from the cart right here. And then of course, inside here is where we'll be needing to remove this particular product from the cart items array. So first of all, we must find the product from the cart items. So exactly like how we have done in our previous code right here, where we use found product. And we will just exactly this particular line of code, which is found product equals to cart items dot find, finding based on the ID from this particular product. So I'm just going to be copying this first. And next thing is I have to paste it inside our onRemove right here. And of course, you can see right here, there's no such thing as ID. So, but then I can just replace it with product dot underscore ID. And this will eventually, we are able to find the product that we are passing via this particular function called remove. And next would be, I like to have a new cart items array that does not have this particular product that we have passed right here. So in this case, I will say concept new cart items. And in this case, what I like to do is that I like to go through this particular cart items array, and in which I like to filter out the product that matches this particular ID with the ones that we are passing. So dot underscore ID. As you can see right here, I like to filter out that ID that matches this particular product ID. So when the item ID does not match the ID that we are passing here, that means it should stay in this particular new cart items. So basically these new cart items will be having all the list of products except for this particular product that we are passing right here. So that's the second step. And now we have already found the product and also a list that does not have the found product. What we can do here, we can actually set those functions like that we have made it in our previous functions, like set total price, set total quantity, and set cart items right here. All these three actually we're going to be making use again. So I have to copy all these three functions, and of course I have to paste it right here. So for our set cart items right here, I like to make sure to just replace the new cart items right here, because this cart items does not have the product that's coming from the one that we are passing, and eventually it will update a new cart item value. So that's the first step. Next, of course, we must be updating the total price variable. So in this case, we must be adding a function inside here. So in this case, it's going to be a previous total price, and this particular function, we are passing the previous total price, and with the previous total price, we're going to be removing this particular product from the total price right here. So in this case, I say product dot price. I mean, not this particular product, but we're going to be making use of found product. So we're going to be removing the found product dot price multiplied by found product dot quantity, and this will eventually remove all the price from this particular found product. And since we multiply with quantity, yeah, it just removes all the products from the total price. And set total quantity will be almost the same, where in which we'll be using the same way. In this case, first of all, we'll be using previous total quantity, and this is a arrow function as well. And this arrow function removing all the total quantities of the found product. So we must put found product dot quantity, and this will be eventually solve the issue of removing a particular product from the cart. So of course, we must make sure to pass this function or remove function through our context provider. Pass it right here, and once we have passed it here, we must also be accepting it inside our cart. So in our cart right here, we must be adding it right here. So on remove, and once you have added on remove, you must make sure to add it at the bottom here as well. for the remove item button. So right after this particular type, we can have like on click props. And in this case, we're going to be making sure to use arrow function as again, because we are actually passing argument to this particular function called on remove. And the argument that we are passing is product. And this will eventually solve the issue with the removing the products from the cart right here. So let me just add this particular item, which is there's 2 items of this particular cart. In this particular cart, there's 2 items of the particular product. So there's 2. And let me just go add another product. Just say this particular DGI. And let me just add this product as well into the cart. And as you can see in here, there's 2 product of this and there's 2 product of this particular DJI. So let me just remove the last one right here, which is the DJI Mini 3. And as you can see right here, when I remove all the product of DJI has been removed, and of course has highlighted the total price as well. And when you click on this as well, you're able to find there's no product has been added right here. And of course, there's nothing here as well. So this is the basic idea of how we are able to make use of on remove function